Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world right now. You're tuned into Hellblazer Biz with your host, as always, me, Chris Gordon. Today, I won't beat around the bush. I'm excited to bring to you another guest from the hit Lethal Weapon show, based on the original films. This chap has taken the internet by storm, and he's even got a Twitter account named after his hair. Awesome. Anyway, I'm proud to bring to you today Johnathan Fernandez.
Hey, what's up? I'm Johnathan Fernandez, and I'm hanging out with Chris over here at hellblazer.biz.
So, hello, how are you?
Hey, good man. I'm great. I'm just hanging out, as they say.
Excellent, excellent. As I say, I do appreciate the time, and I think everybody who's going to listen appreciates the time that you're taking to talk to me and answer their questions today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So yeah, as you know, it's a standard thing. We'll find out a bit more about you with some questions that we got. Some from your normal, generic ones here, and then obviously some about Scorsese, obviously,
Yeah,
and character.
yes.
That's very intriguing and very dry-witted as well. So it should be interesting.
Nice. Well, I'm trying to play up I'm trying to appeal to the English way of comedy.
Yes, definitely. I was actually going to say I was looking at your comedy reel, and on your website, I
Hmm.
was looking through your different reels, and yeah, your comedy, you're very dry, very very dry comic, and it's definitely definitely something that the kind of comedy that I grew up with.
Yeah.
I was telling Kevin, very much Monty Python, Blackadder, very straight, very dry, but it's purely sarcastic, and you.
It's funnier when you can say the most ridiculous thing with a straight face. I think I've always felt like that my entire life,
Yeah.
and I was always the kid in school that got his hands somehow on stuff like Monty Python and Faulty Towers and showing my friend, and they're like, "This is dumb," and I'm like, "You're dumb. What are you talking about? This is brilliant." And it's just like I've always gravitated towards British comedy for sure.
Yeah, it is very different. It's quite amazing how it's half of the British people don't even get it either. To be fair, my wife will just sit at me if I start putting Monty Python on or Blackadder. She just looks at me, gives me a groan, and walks out of the room.
That's hilarious. What's cool about that is that then they have more license to be to really sneak in some political commentary because people don't even realize what's really being said.
Yeah.
Especially because you're saying it so straight and you don't realize that you're like making fun of, I don't know, a monarchy or something.
Oh yeah, definitely, especially Blackadder, with all the King George and the Mad King George,
Yeah, right.
and the World War one was, I think, the most poignant one, and that was so many digs at the the hierarchy of how things used to be, like in the military, with generals sitting 20 miles behind the lines and just like, oh yeah, meh. It's
No,
different from them.
I've always said that to anybody who listens. I was just like, times have changed so much that like I feel like our wars would be a totally different situation if the president had to be there.
Oh
Like
yeah,
if or the kings and queens still were. It's just like now it's so far removed that they're like, yeah, go. You don't even have to make the call for the strike. Really, you can just be like, yeah, tell them to go blow this place up, and
hmm
like you're 5,000 miles away, and it doesn't matter to you at all. It's crazy.
exactly, exactly. It would have been totally different. Like you say, none of the generals would have been, especially like the one and two. None of the generals would have been there, and going back hundreds of years, definitely with all the knights. So yeah,
Yeah,
very,
yeah. You went from like first in line, like Alexander the Great was like the first one to like put the make the first strike to now not being on the same continent. It's crazy.
I know it's scary, very scary.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, cool. Anyway, so kind of what got you into acting in the first place?
I kind of was not exactly the class clown, but I always had some kind of funny comment to say about most things
Mhm.
throughout school. And I did a musical or two here and there in high school, but never took it that seriously. It's just because my friends were doing it, and even when I took drama class in high school, which I excelled at, I still just thought it was cool and something to do, but nothing very serious at all. And then I went to college and was unofficially changed my major like 10,000 times and
Mhm.
did a little bit of theater for non-theater majors. But then I started improvising because this guy through the College of Communications sent out an email that said, "Hey, it's crazy that Penn State doesn't have a an improv group, so I'm going to be in this room on this date and this time, and if anybody wants to come and do improv, I'm totally down. So me and maybe like 8 of us showed up. We weren't murdered because it sounded like a possible
Yeah.
dangerous situation, and we did a lot of like whose line is it anyway type stuff, like a lot of short form games, and I loved it. I was like, this is cool, but it wasn't even then. I was just like, this is just something I'm doing. I can do it well, whatever. And I was studying a lot of like television production.
Hmm.
My first job was uh, my first job in the biz was an intern at TRL, to totally date myself, show my age actually. But I was at TRL and learned a bunch. Then that was my junior year of college. Then I went back to school for senior year, hated it because I was over it. I just wanted to go back to doing, real people stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was a page at Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And from there, I started working at ABC as kind of like a production manager kind of person, scheduler, and then was working at One Life to Live as a assistant director. And so I was just like kind of meandering all over the place. And when I started doing a lot of work with the actors at One Life to Live, I was like, oh, I'd rather do that. And I was at the same time kind of taking classes at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, doing a lot of improv and stuff. And I got onto a sketch team, a house sketch team there faster than I ever thought I would. It was like within the first year that I was taking classes. And when I started doing those sketches, I was like, oh, well, all these other people that I'm doing like on my team are actors. So I guess I'm an actor now. And I literally just like started auditioning just because they were auditioning. And I booked like a major commercial with Amy Poehler, like within the first month, something like crazy like that. And I was like, man, this thing is easy. Acting is like a cinch. And then I didn't book anything for like 8 months. And it wasn't until I did a thing on the Colbert Report really briefly, like 8 months later. And but during that time, that's when I was like, oh, I guess I'm acting now. And it just feels like with acting, there's always a lot of new beginnings. And that was a beginning to my career. But then when I hooked up with my manager, Edna Cowan, that was a big beginning to my career because that just gave me like a ton of access all of a sudden. And then a couple of years after that, I signed with another agency, or I did an ABC showcase. That felt like a new beginning. And then I signed with an agency, new beginning. And then Lethal Weapon happened. And now that felt like a totally different thing. So it just feels like there's always these renaissances for like some crazy reason. Because I mean, I've been on stuff. I've done a bunch of shows and TV and films, but it just always feels like the next thing is a brand new thing.
Awesome. It's a great feeling to have as well, because obviously that you're not going to get bored then, and you're not going to get into a rut where you're just thinking you're doing the same thing over and over. So yeah, having that difference is great, and starting out with doing things like the directing and the production assistant, I think, is a really valuable way, because then you can see how it works behind behind the camera as well as being in front of the camera. So you've got the whole overall experience.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely invaluable to learn as many sides of any industry you're a part of, because then you get a true appreciation for everybody's work, and then you don't put anybody above anybody else because you see what it takes for the final product to come together, especially with any kind of television or film production. Because if you ever visit a set, there's hundreds of people that are around, and when you eventually watch the finished product, then it's like you only see two people on camera or one person or whatever, but behind it there's like a ton, and people are like, making the smoke happen, and also, literally putting out fires, and like turning lights, and the cameras are moving, and then people that are making sure that the food is there for everybody. And like, there's just so much stuff going on that there's a lot of people to thank. That's why it's like anytime you see at an award ceremony, they're like, man, there's too many people to thank, the humble ones. It's there really is. It's just like, because how far you got to go back to your parents, but then there's also all the people that have ever helped you to get to this moment, and the casting that have given you advice, and that's all just for your personal kind of situation. But then as far as making the thing you're getting the award for is concerned, then there's like 300 people that like helped make this thing, so it's just like, it's really crazy. And once you kind of learn how those things work with each other, then you get such an amazing appreciation for how anything happens. And it's absolutely invaluable to learn that stuff for sure.
Definitely. I mean, I actually had the privilege of having Richard Hatch, the late Richard Hatch, sadly, on my show last year. That was shocking. I was going to take his classes. We were talking about that because the classes he taught with his Richard Hatch Acting Academy, I think it was called, and he basically taught that. He taught every part, every aspect of filming. So because you're not just in front of the camera, you're doing the directing, you're doing the lighting, to get everyone. And I was looking forward to doing that this year. That was
that was just last week, right?
It was, last week. It was that came as a bit of a blow. But you just reminded me of something that, obviously he was talking about as well, and saying, vital to get that kind of experience behind the camera. And I did as people will know listening, I did my first film last year. I was in featured extra. I'm trying to get back into acting again. I did it when I was 20 years old. Pantomime dame was the funniest thing I've ever done. Dressing as a pantomime dame, it was it was brilliant.
Awesome.
But I did this film last year, and you're right, behind the scene, on camera, it was just me. There was 2 others. I was a supervisor in an office, and then for like 7 or 8 hours, I was sat waiting for my 20 minutes on screen. I was watching everybody else running around with all, and it's fascinating industry. It really is.
It's crazy, yeah.
See everyone there. Cool. So, are there any actors? Simon Barre Brisbois is asking, are there any directors, actors, or playwrights that you admire and would love to work with during your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's crazy to kind of pinpoint things because there's so many people doing such great work. But I guess it would have to fall down to the people that I kind of always go back to, and I think one of those people for sure is Guy Ritchie. And I'm not just trying to placate you because you're British, but I mean, because people always ask you, like, what are your favorite movies? Like, what are your favorite TV shows? Mm-hmm. TV shows maybe is kind of an easier answer, but favorite movies, it's like if you're a cinephile, like, how do you pinpoint that? Because there's so many. But for me, it's kind of always between Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Yeah. It's like whichever one I'm watching, I'm like, this might be the better one. And then when I watch the next one, I'm like, I don't know, I really like this movie, and I know those movies both verbatim, and I feel like Brad Pitt was so lucky to be to play the role he did in Snatch because he's an American dude playing this pikey and or gypsy person. And I'm just like, I would love to be in one of those movies just because they're so complete. Like a Guy Ritchie movie is like, it's beautiful to look at. The editing is amazing. The performances are great. The characters are amazing. The dialogue is perfect. Like cinematography, like the music, everything about it is just like, man, this is a really total package. So even if the movie is not that great, like the one when he did The Man from U.N.C.L.E., like that movie was fine. Yeah. But all the aesthetics and like everything, it was weird because you're like, I really want to like this movie. For some reason, it doesn't really click, but there's elements of it that are perfect, and it's all because of that dude. Like his vision is really crazy. Yeah, it was
definitely a particular style with that film as well. It's different. The stylization of it, like you say, was his.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think he's probably at the top of my list of like a person I would love to be in a Guy Ritchie movie and directed by him and something he's written. And then also, God, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. He did The Fountain, and he did Black Swan and The Wrestler.
God, now you got me thinking about it.
I know. I can't believe I cannot remember. I just saw him. I literally saw him the other day.
Oh no! Let me have a.
Yeah,
good old Google.
Oh, Aronofsky. Yeah. Right. Thanks. My wife just chimed in from the back. Yeah. It's so funny. I literally just saw him the other day, and I pointed him out to my wife. I was like, there's Darren Aronofsky. And that's another dude where it's just like I feel like Guy Ritchie would be like placating, or appeasing me with the light side of things, and then Aronofsky would be like taking everything that's dark in my soul and like bringing it out. Because all of his movies are just so serious, and I really would like to be in a movie of his too, because I immediately know that it would stamp me as a pretty decent actor just because I'm at all involved in it. But I think those two dudes, like for sure, it would kind of revolve around them.
Excellent. Some fantastic choices as well, like you say. Things like the Black Swan, they're so serious. They are dark. They're moody, and for an actor, that is really a beautiful part to play, I guess, is to get yourself really immersed.
It's always really funny because like I think most people agree that comedy is the harder of the two, like comedy and drama. But like comedy is still like the stepchild in as being compared to drama, because like dramas are the ones that win the Oscars, like because I feel partially it's because people feel bad for not giving it the Oscar. It's like, oh man, you were dealing with pedophiles and your kid died and your whole family died and stuff, and how am I going to give this comedy movie the Oscar? All this like serious like transgendered stuff and like
Yeah.
these like heavy things. So I feel like people just kind of feel bad. They're like, I can't give it to the comedy. That guy was just like falling up and down stairs the whole time. But it's just yeah. So it's just really interesting. Like that's why it's cool to, I can't come up with a better example or a good example right now, but somebody that just really blends it well, film wise. And that's something that's really cool about our show, because it's like action, drama, comedy, all equal thirds, and you get hit by each one equally. And it's really something that's difficult to achieve.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the good thing with Lethal Weapon is there is a mix of comedy in there. Obviously, you've got the serious side, but it's a more light-hearted type of show than something like the Black Swan type of filming. But yeah, so you do have a nice mix in Lethal Weapon, I think, and I think that's what draws people to it.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. Jamie, who is at Lady of Mischief on Twitter, will we ever find out Scorsese's real name?
I mean, I hope so. I think I love stuff like that, like in movies and TV shows where, I guess now it's not quite a MacGuffin, but it's like something like that where it's just like, cool, there's this like ever-present mystery that has zero stakes, but it's nice to just kind of know about. And I feel like it's something that they probably wouldn't want to reveal too soon, because then the mystery is the fun.
Yeah.
And so I said this before, but I like my absolute fantasy would be if it's like some crazy season, like season 8 or 9 or something, and we're doing Lethal Weapon still, and Scorsese has guns in both hands, like guns in akimbo, these big gats, and there's like this huge shootout, and he got shot up like like RoboCop, and he's all dead and dying, blood everywhere. And then and his final line before he dies to Merton Riggs is what his real name is. And I've been joking that his real name is actually something like Steven Spielberg. And so if it's like, oh, my only regret is that my name is Steven Scorsese Spielberg. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what their designs are for the name, but I can't wait. I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. But like you say, it's good to keep the mystery and the anonymity going right the way through then, because it's going to make us guess all the way through. We're just going to sit and wait for it just to drop.
Yeah, and believe you me, whenever I find out what it's going to be before the people do, I'm going to tell everybody I know that secret right.
Yeah,
it's gonna be the first thing out of my mouth. Like, hey, guess who knows? I do, but you won't find out for 5 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Rub it in.
Yeah.
Excellent. Stella, who is the Lethal Weapon Italia page.
Oh yeah, Stella. Hi, Stella.
Yeah, she interacts with you a lot. She started the campaigning or the online petition for season 2 as well. Which is a fantastic thing, because we've all signed it and we're all pushing for it.
Yeah.
She'd like to know, what kind of arc and personal growth would you like to see your character in the seasons to come? Any particular storyline that you'd like to develop?
I mean, I think about this a lot, because what's interesting about Scorsese is that he can really go in any direction. Everybody else is kind of locked into their thing, because Jordana's a psychiatrist, and they're really good at doing this, like the writers, because they didn't do something specific to Jordana that was at all lame. Like the way her episode happened, like it was pretty like far down the line in terms of like what kind of story you could tell with her. It's cool that it was like found out that she was married. You found out that her stalker situation and all that stuff, and where she lived, and that stuff was really cool. And it wasn't just like the immediate step to take with her character. And even with Keisha, it's like, she's an attorney, and you saw her more in the courthouse and stuff. And I think with Scorsese, it's interesting because he, it's like, yeah, the cinephile aspect of things, and he's, writing scripts and wants to be a filmmaker and stuff. But that's like a whole different part of his life. Like, I feel like it'd be interesting to see like what his like. I have no idea where he would live,
Yeah.
like what kind of apartment he would live in. Besides it having like a framed poster of Pulp Fiction, probably, and so outside of that, it's just like I don't know. I really think it could go anywhere. Like what I don't know what kind of car he would drive, or if he like walks to work, and if he lives like what part of Los Angeles, where he went to school. Like I just feel like there's so much mystery with this guy, whereas everybody else, it's like, yeah, I mean, Keisha went to Trish rather,
Yeah.
went to law school, and it's probably one of the better law schools, probably around California. And the same with like Jordana's character. But I feel like Scorsese, it's like, he probably went to USC, but did he go to NYU? Is he like a Tisch brat? Is he like a person that really struggled like in New York? Because that means like that's a whole other element of the character. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I really think that once they start figuring that stuff out, it's going to be an absolute Pandora's box of just like information.
I definitely think so. Like you say, I mean, I'm up to date on the episodes as well, and the one with Jordana this is the last one I've just watched. I think that was last week's, and
Yeah.
the emotion, so seeing some, yeah, to have an episode centric purely on Scorsese would be very good. And like you say, to find out, go back to his apartment, find out what's going on down there, and bit more of his personal life. It'd be interesting to
Also, because I wonder how funny it would be, because it'd be interesting to see him. Like most of my scenes are pretty comical, even when they're either comical or I'm just giving straight information.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the Christmas episode where I felt like I had something really dramatic to do, because I had to tell Riggs that I didn't find anything in his wife's file. And that felt really dramatic. So it'd be interesting to see Scorsese in some kind of pickle where he's like, dude, this isn't funny. Like, I'm not trying to be funny right now. This is like for real. Someone's out to kill me, or I screwed up this autopsy and it turns out it's the president of the United States' son, or some stupid thing like that. I don't know. It just feels like they just really have so much room to do whatever they want.
Yeah, definitely. What's it like working with Damon as well? Obviously, you're a comedian. Damon's a comedian. Does he ever intentionally try to mess up your lines, or do you try and mess up his?
I haven't tried to mess up his, just because I'm usually. I feel like I'm just so small fish over there that like I just want to do a good job, and then if fun happens, great. But mostly, I don't want to be the worst actor of all time. And but there was a scene where I forget what episode it was. Something with it was the one with Trish, with Trish in the courthouse, and I had to give information to Riggs about the DNA I found from the brother of the protege of Trish, or the person that she mentors.
Yeah.
And as I was doing my lines, like Damon or when they were doing the close up on me, Damon and Klain were basically jive talking all their lines. Like everything that they said, they were like, man, what you saying about this, whatever. And I'm like, but I'm on camera and I'm trying to just say everything straight.
Yeah.
But these goofballs are literally doing their lines as in jive. And we never talked about that, because I was just like trying so hard to not laugh, and I just did it. And but I just realized I got to talk to them at some point about that, because I was like, yo, what the hell? Like, you really put me through the ringer on that one.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of moving on, same sort of vein. Donna Joe and Joanna Montana are kind of asking who on the show is like the practical Joker.
What's funny? Like that question, I realize gets asked a lot, and I think it's really funny, because I think we all have a boring answer to that. Because I would say no one, because the show is so difficult to produce in terms of time and effort, and it takes 9 days rather to film one episode.
Right.
And a lot of times we have two crews going at the same time, because the stunt crew is out exploding and stuff and jumping off buildings while everybody else is like filming dialogue simultaneously. And so when we're trying to get through those days and everybody's tired, there's like literally no time to play around with whoopee cushions or whatever. And so it's funny, because it's like I think you have more time to do that stuff when you're on a sitcom, because that's way more relaxed environment.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a multicam, because the work is a lot less, and you're on stage less time, and there's more time to screw around, because you also have that element of the show where it's like we're here to goof around, so we're always constantly thinking about that.
Yeah.
Whereas with our show, we're just like, I hope nobody gets hurt, and I hope that we can get through today because there's a lot of pages we got to do. So I mean, right now there just haven't been. I guess the closest thing to doing a practical joke would be just what I said with Damon and Clayton speaking jive while I was like on camera. But other than that, it's just like. I mean, we're always fun and things are always light and we're always joking around with each other, but there hasn't been like one actual prank or anything like that I know of.
Yeah, that you know of, yeah. Excellent. Oh, it's good to hear. I just want to shout out, William Woolard was also asking about the Scorsese, I can't even speak now, Scorsese's character, because he wanted to find out more, so I'll just say we've answered that one, so I'll just say hi to William on that one, he put that in. Cool. Stella's also mentioning that you're very active on social media, so she'd love to hear about your relationship with the fans. And have you ever found yourself in a position where you're a huge fan of another actor, musician, etc., and getting a chance to meet them?
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot, especially because I don't know. Like this is all kind of very new to me. Like even though I've done a fair amount of shows and credits and stuff, it's still. I feel like unless you grew up with it and you were a child actor, I don't know that you ever get really used to being around people that you are fans of, or now that you're working with somebody that you've seen, every episode of whatever show they're on. Like, I don't know how easy it is to turn that off and just be like, I don't care that you're Bryan Cranston. Yeah. I don't care that you watched a lot of Malcolm in the Middle and also Breaking Bad, and now you're doing a scene. Like, I don't see how you can possibly turn that off. And even with Clayton, like when I met Clayton, I was a huge fan of Rectify. Yeah. And so meeting him, I was like, dude, I promise I won't ask you 10,000 questions about it, but I want to. And so meeting him was a big deal for me. Meeting Damon was obviously a big deal because he's one of the funniest people of all time, and making him laugh really makes me happy a lot. And so also, Keisha, like, has been in a bunch of stuff that I'm very familiar with that I really like. And when I first met her, I was like, oh, dude, you're, XYZ in this movie, and you're this other in this movie, and Jordana too, obviously. So it's just like, I kind of, and Kevin, like, I remember going to our first table read and I sat between Kevin and Jordana, and I was like, what is this? What's happening? Like, how am I sitting next to Ted Shaw from Mad Men? That makes no sense. And I'm looking over and I see Damon Wayans and Clayton, and so I feel like I'm starstruck with those guys every day. Wow. And so when it translates to then being on Twitter and then and seeing that Terry Crews is following me, like, now I'm just like, that's crazy. And then meeting Trisha Helfer, like I met her at a Fox event, and obsessed with Battlestar Galactica, and God. So meeting her, I was just like, dude, can we just be friends for real? and then I met Edward James Olmos recently also, and I was just like, and then I was able to tell him, like, hey, Trisha and I met, and we're talking about riding motorcycles around. He's like, oh, you guys are gonna have fun, and I'm like, you're Captain Adama, what's going on? Where's it happening? And so I don't think that ever will shut off for me, and like and I keep on meeting more and more in various situations I'm in, and it's really just fascinating and total fantasy land.
That just absolutely sounds epic. It really does. I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan myself. Obviously, I had with Richard on last year, and in December, a lifelong dream came true because I met Dirk Benedict and Herb Jefferson Jr. So Boomer, cool. The original Boomer and Starbuck as well. Yeah, awesome. It was really, really cool. I'm trying to get Katie Sackhoff on my show as well.
That'd be amazing, dude. Yeah. My dream is that because Trisha and I did talk about riding motorcycles. We haven't done it yet, but Katie also rides a bike, and Kevin Rom also rides a bike. So I was like, can the four of us just go into a canyon somewhere, drive around motorcycles, and then take a selfie that's just gonna like break the internet for some reason, and then like it's like all I think about it. But it's like, I love that show. I was all about it. So like when I met Olmos, I was just like, yeah, just give me a pat on the back and say we all real quick.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, that show was amazing. It was so cool.
It was brilliant. He actually signed off on my show saying that, so say we all. I was like, oh yes.
Perfect.
It was. And Trish is obviously on Lucifer at the moment. You should have a Lucifer and Lethal Weapon crossover one day.
Yeah, people are for that. People have really been asking for that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
That's not the first time it's come up. Obviously I'd say yes.
That'd be an awesome thing just to see the character mixes there as well.
Totally.
Excellent. So Tonya, who's Lethal Weapon HQ, would like to say, if you trade places with another character on the show for one day, who would you choose and why?
I think. Hi Tanya, by the way. I think, I mean, the obvious choice would be Riggs, just because like the Martin Riggs character since the first movie has been the ultimate male fantasies
Hmm.
forever. Like, to be funny and charming and also dangerous,
Hmm.
and also having um, no care in the world about your like physical well-being, like all those things are just kind of this like epic like male fantasy. And so it would be great to all of a sudden be him for a day. But then also, like, I feel like one of the characters I really gravitate towards is also Dante Brown's character in RJ, because
Yeah.
just being like the like shitty kid that's talking back to parents and putting them in their place too and stuff. It's like was being giving them cheek constantly. Like
Uh-huh.
that's a lot of fun. Also, also because my character hasn't been to the Murtaugh house, and I'm just like all I want to do is just sit at that enormous kitchen island
I know
for
it's
like
huge, isn't it?
act. It's so big, dude. It's crazy. It's bigger in real life.
Was it? It just looks massive. It's like, oh, yeah. I'd love to find out how a cop can afford that. Mind you, she's a lawyer, isn't she? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's all for her.
yeah,
Yeah, it's all
yeah.
for her.
I was thinking. No, I was thinking that the other day, and yeah, that same answer came straight in my head as well. Yeah, she's a lawyer. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why they can. A cop can live
Well, that's
there.
what's so cool about the show is that how progressive it is in terms of what the female characters on the show achieve and what they mean, especially for Keisha's character, because in the pilot, like, Murtaugh didn't have to go back to work because she's been holding down the fort and she's
Yeah.
making enough cash for the both of them and for their entire family.
Hmm.
So that's a really cool thing that he always kind of struggles with, because as his being is always called into the question of like how much he can contribute financially, because he doesn't have to do that. And
Yeah.
so it's always interesting to see how that stuff plays out in the show.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And yeah, you're right. It's very progressive, say, with society now as well. In the fact that women are taking more and more of these high-profile jobs, so it's great to see, and that being
Yeah.
portrayed across on TV more. Cool. Sarah Brooks is. It would be interesting to see how and why someone would want to have to work with dead people. And then she's put in brackets, joking, besides them being possibly less aggravating than some live ones.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think it's way worse being a doctor of the living and having to, tell people, like, because people aren't very good at describing what their illnesses are and
Hmm.
symptoms, and they also get so skittish about it, because when you're trying to do your job and tell them like I'm pretty sure you have this thing,
Yeah.
but then especially nowadays with the modern doctor, or modern medicine and people and the internet, people think that they know more than the doctor does, and they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, I read online that it could be this, and he's like, dude, trust me, I just ran your blood, you don't have Crohn's disease, man. It's not even like that. And so yeah, I think with being a pathologist, like you just kind of, it's a totally different side of things. Like everything is always kind of a mystery, because you have to figure out retroactively what happened to this person,
Hmm.
and so you're also like part detective, and that person never has to tell you that they think they died in a way that they saw on WebMD, because they are silent forever, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something that they just kind of gravitate toward, and they all, like, from what I've understood, a lot of them have senses of humor, just because you are literally surrounded by so much death and carnage
Hmm.
that it's hard to want to be serious all the time. Like you always need like an escape from that kind of thing. Um, but I kind of get it. I don't know. I understand why people want to do it, because A, somebody has to, and B, it's you still have to be super smart at what you do, and then you don't have to deal with any of the lip.
Yep, that makes sense. That does make sense. Especially, I know
Yeah.
what my poor GP looks and acts like Basil Fawlty.
Well,
So he's,
yeah.
yeah, and the way he walks, yeah, he'll just walk in now. He's that fed up. He'll just walk in. And he goes, "Oh, for God's sake, what?" And that's
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, he's heard everything. So yeah, definitely easier
So
working with the people who are dead when you're in that kind of profession. Okay, last
exactly.
two questions now, kind of off the wall. Scorsese's hair, which is the actual account, Twitter account.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about having a Twitter account dedicated to your hair?
I mean, I don't think anything could be uh, more uh, flattering, really. It's I don't know, it's awesome. I think it's great. Like, because it's something that's such a part of me that I forget about. Just I
Hmm.
forget about how big it is and how obnoxious it could be in certain situations. And it is like a big, um, you know, it's always like kind of like a stealing the show visually a lot of times, and I don't always realize that. So to have that kind of handle dedicated is just, I don't know, it's crazy. That's what I feel like. That's what anybody would want. I mean, it's kind of like a stamp of approval of like we like what you're doing, and then we're making this Twitter about you because we like what you're doing. Like I don't know. I think it's just pretty cool.
Excellent, excellent. Sorry, I was just looking. There's another question. I remember I was asking about your clothes because I was watching seeing how sharp. I can't remember it, you know. I know Lethal Weapon Italy, Stella and Tonya will kill me because I've just completely forgotten their questions they had about your shoes and your clothes. So forgive me about that one. Sorry, guys.
You can tell. No, they could. I mean,
I'll tweet
I
it out
feel
to you.
like
I'm sure you'll answer it.
yeah, I converse with them all the time. But if I think I might know what they were going to ask, and it's the what happened was so I dress up a lot
Hmm.
every day. I'm in some kind of permutation of a suit, and just because I really like men's fashion, and I like wearing a lot of color and a lot of accessories and stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I kind of went in for my first meeting with Genevieve, the costume designer,
Hmm.
it kind of she already had an idea of what she wanted Scorsese to look like, and then she was like, "Oh, now that I see you, Jonathan, why don't we do something kind of like this?" And so she just like created this like Scorsese in terms of clothing is basically an alternate universe Fernandez, and so it's always funny to see my clothing hanging for me to wear as a costume that day or any day because I'm like, oh yeah, this is like I probably wouldn't buy this, but I would look at it for a
Hmm.
long time and be like, should I wear this?
Yeah.
Because his stuff is more muted,
Hmm.
whereas the stuff I wear is usually more like slightly more loud.
Yeah.
And he wears like the hipster version of the suit than what I do because my
Hmm.
stuff is more bold and clear delineations of color and borders and stuff. And his stuff is like yeah, the plaids and like the knit ties and stuff. Like he's definitely more of like the hipster side of things. Uh, but it's cool because it doesn't feel far off where I'm just like, oh, I don't wear that. But it feels like close enough where I'm like, oh, I feel like this is a distinct thing and I know how to
Yeah.
play that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that was pretty much a question around there. Last question I've got because I know you've got to go. It's just it's enough. What Muppet? If you were to be a Muppet, or they were to make a Muppet of you, this is what I ask everybody. What
Yeah.
Muppet? What Muppet character would you be?
I mean, my favorite Muppet was always Gonzo. Because I think Gonzo's so hilarious. Like it's always nice to be kind of like the Pratt of and always like the butt of jokes and also
Hmm.
the schemer and stuff. And so I feel like I would be something like that because the ones that are more like Bunsen and is too smart and like Scooter's also like too smart and like Kermit is too cool and like he's too like Bugs Bunny. He's still
Yeah.
like kind of like always surveying the situation.
Hmm.
But I feel like Gonzo's the fun bit where you get to be the butt of the joke, but also scheming. I feel like my character would be, I don't know, something like that. And now I got to think about a Muppet name. That's hard because they're so random. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I guess something like Gonzo, I totally gravitate towards. Except I'll throw Camilla away. Camilla would be thrown away.
Oh god, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, definitely. I
don't
think
need that.
I think I'd see myself more as a Fozzie Walker, Walker, Walker.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Foz is great. Foz
So,
is really great.
yeah, that's kind of. I've got my little sad failed impressions, which don't, which go down. Anyway, before I stop recording, is there one thing you'd like to say to your fans and to the fans of the show before we stop recording?
I mean, thanks to all the fans. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for enjoying it. Like the show, any show could not survive without its fans, and they were singly the most important thing outside of making the show physically happen. They're the thing that makes the show sustain. So thanks, and I'm glad everybody's so cool on Twitter. And it's very rare that we see anybody that's a bona fide hater, which is nice because usually there's more of them. But now, whenever I see a hater, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you just haven't watched the show. Like,
Yeah.
you can't possibly say that because it makes no sense. Like, if you
Hmm.
watch a show, you wouldn't be able to say that. And so people are just like kind of trying to sneak in and troll us, but it's very minimal, which is amazing. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad to talk to anybody on Twitter. I'm glad that our our live tweets are so successful, and it's cool. It's really cool to be a part of that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you so much again, Johnathan, for your time, and thank you to everybody who sent in questions. I apologise if I didn't get to ask yours. Time was limited, and I appreciate Johnathan finding the time in his schedule to talk to me today. Thanks for tuning in as always. I appreciate each and every one of you. This has been Chris Gordon with Lethal Weapons Scorsese, aka Johnathan Fernandez, on Hellblazer Biz.